Welcome, Milanisti, Azzurri fans. Welcome back to Defensive Dynamo. I'm your host, Nicko, and I'm joined by my co-host from Milanistas 360, Husni. He's back.
Wow. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
So how you been, Husni? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long while. I think the last time I jumped in was right after when I came back from Australia, watching that disastrous performance. But yeah, great thing I managed to meet up
Uh,
with good friend Kim, and yeah, look forward to today's pod and topics, the many topics that we'll cover.
Yeah, so how was that experience watching the club?
I'm a bit seasoned now, so that was my third game watching it live. So I was in Riyadh. I watched Super Copa. I watched them play in Dubai, and yeah, Australia. Three losses. That's all I can say. Three
So
losses.
you're a good luck charm, to say the least.
Yeah, when it comes to the friendly. So I was hoping that at least might able to pull off a win, but that's asking for too much from this club and how things are at the moment. But yeah, we'll get into that.
In that game, I saw the highlights. I didn't see it live, but man,
You don't want to see it live. Trust me, don't see
for
it live.
the amount of goals scored that Roma put in the defense, even though it was a friendly. God.
Yeah, it's just a testament to the state of things. So you'd expect that because you wear the shirt, you carry the badge on your heart. Essentially, you want to win every game and you want to be giving it all. But is it? Can you even say that you're only human if there are moments where you let things slip, you give up, you don't want to be there? Because that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's not a good sign. Regardless of the if it's a friendly, not a friendly, you always want to try to compete. Even for me, I was lucky enough to watch. I've watched one game live. It was 2 summers ago. It was a season that CDK was signed.
Okay, yeah.
So it was an August game. I was in Greece the week before that, and I decided before flying back to the States, I decided to stop over to Milan for a few days. There was a home game against Bologna. This was when Bologna wasn't the Bologna that we know today, you know, and this Milan team was when was right off the Scudetto win, dude, and they played, CD Clay played even well. He had a good game. It wasn't the team that we see today, for sure. It was a completely different team, different animal, um, you know. But here we are today.
We'll see a different team in a few months' time. Well,
Yeah,
not a few weeks' time, but
we'll get into that a little bit actually, right? So
yeah.
first things first, as we know, the Azzurri ended their Euro competition yesterday, going out 2-0 against Switzerland. And let me get your thoughts on the performances first from the Albania game. Then the second game and the following games after that.
Yeah, I'll speak about yesterday's game first. And others, pretty much a little bit of a distant memory to me because yesterday's game was quite fresh. To say that the way they played is a surprise, it was to me. It was to me. You would expect that, and because we see this on a club level, yeah, when you have a new manager, you should expect some form of, a bit of invigoration within the team, that they will actually be firing something new. But it really seemed like they weren't bothered. So I've been reading a lot of the comments online, even between us within the Milanistas 360 community. We have a chat, and yeah, I get what you were saying, Nico, and also Nathan. Big shout out to Nathan, always quite active on this channel, and also the chat. But getting players to play the system is not easy. I get that, yeah. So I honestly get that, yeah. When you are essentially the new management. However, this is the cream of Italy, right? So these are the best players that an experienced manager would be able to muster. But to see how they played, it doesn't quite jive with me. So they should have been, freshened up. They should have been fired. New manager, new ideas, and everyone saw the statement that Spalletti put out saying that, I don't want them to be playing PlayStation. I want to show up for training on time and all that. Well, okay, a little bit discipline. But did you see any of that yesterday? I
No,
don't think so. Yeah? And to see names, for example, like I make fun of this guy a little bit, Ricardo Rodriguez, our former player. He seemed to be somewhat okay. He wasn't the best player for Switzerland, but you could say comparatively, he was tearing it up. By the way, so I'm wondering what is wrong with this team. Guys like Mancini, they aren't terrible players by any far, but you started to miss players like Chiellini, Bonucci. I'm thinking like, what is going on?
I mean, defensively, the back line was fine, even with Mancini. I know some people had their doubts about Mancini, being that he likes to pick up yellow cards and he's very undisciplined, and they wanted Borgiorno to play. But, I had said it before, we don't know how, coaches have their favorite players. They trust certain people. It is what it is. And maybe, if you only know, during the training session, maybe Mancini was outperforming Borgiorno and had a better relationship with Bastoni, right? So that's the reason maybe why Spalletti chose him. And it wasn't Mancini. Yesterday's fault. Let's focus on yesterday's game primarily, because the other matches weren't bad, right? Even Spain, I broke down Spain's game earlier today. And Spain is Spain. They're playing on they're one of the best teams in the Euros right now. But what I noticed yesterday, defensively, not offensively, we'll get into the offense in a second, was
Daddy, I finished both dress.
Okay, well, Nico's attending to that. So, yeah, I'll give my thoughts on that. When Nico comes back. So, my thoughts about the overall state of play. I get what Nico mentioned. Maybe in terms of some defensive moments, it could have been worse. However, a few things really stuck out to me. I didn't understand a few things that happened. One is that Chiesa going down the wing, and at one point he stuck his arms out and wondering like, where is everyone? Yeah, what do you expect him to do? I mean, is he expected to be dribble and go into the box and shoot? No. So the chemistry within the team, I found it a bit confusing. There were moments where they were playing long ball. I don't get which player in that system or which player was there is really a player that you play long ball to. Definitely not Skamaka, I can tell you that. And the number of misplaced passes, I mean, like, you didn't even have to be under that much threat. And these passes were like, either too heavy or were far off.
Regardless of what the coach is doing, so few things on that. So Spalletti, he talked about during his press conferences, and I mentioned it a few times. He going into this tournament, he gave the freedom to the players offensively to do what they want to do. He didn't give them any tactics offensively. All right, and this was similar to, and I'm going to go back to, and I've done it before, back in 2004 during the Euros with Greece. It's well documented that Otto, when he had a less talented team than Italy, even this Italian team, he told the players going into their Euros, he's like, offensively, you do what you want to do. I trust you. You're professional players. All right? Figure it out. You know how to create shapes and create spacing and create runs and all that other stuff, right?
Yeah, and at minimum, the individual ability, it should be up there.
You should know the spacing. If you're not, you don't have the appropriate space between your teammates to support them, which we've seen it with Milan as well. Right? Over and over again. You're not going to have that support. That's on the players, especially when the coach is saying, offense, I trust you. Do what you want to do. Now, defensively, Spalletti had to set him up a certain way defensively. So that could fall on him primarily and some of the players as well. But offensively, that's on the players 100%. During training sessions, they're getting trained. It's not like they're not being coached. During all this time with Spalletti, if you can't figure out a good way to pass, you can't pass, your first touch sucks, that's on the players, not on the coach. These are not amateur players. These are not, MLS players. These are top European players, and they should know better than that. And defensively, yesterday's game, and I'm sure you noticed this as well. Let me get my notes really quick. So before they even scored a goal, Switzerland, we saw the amount of pressure they had on Italy, right? They were controlling the ball. They couldn't get out of their own half. Chiesa, so I'm going to pick on some Juventini players right now. Chiesa, there was a moment that he didn't pick up his player on a run. They almost scored a goal. If it wasn't for the first bad touch, they would have scored a goal or gotten a shot on goal on Gigi. All right? 37th minute, the first goal, that was on Fagioli. 100%. I don't know what Fagioli was doing, Husni. His man, I think Freuler, his name is, made a run into the box. Fagioli just sat there and goes, all right, here you go. And he scored the goal. 46 minutes, second goal comes in. Who's that?
Nicko, sorry to cut in. What do you think of that goal? Yeah, so
dude, and we've seen it with Milan too. The midfielder's job when you're close to a player, when a player from the attacking position is making a run from the midfield to the middle inside the box, the center back it's not their job, the center back, to pick him up. It's the midfielder. Fagioli is the midfielder in that 4-3-3. He's a central midfielder. Dude, do your job. Just run. It doesn't take enough. Either you got to want to defend or you don't. If Azzurri gave up on his team, that's laziness. You need to be pulled off the pitch in that case. If you can't do a simple recovery run and pick up, just put pressure on the player. It doesn't take skill to do that. It takes motivation. In order to defend, you need some skill, but like the basic, like 101 of defending, the first thing is being motivated to defend. Okay, second goal, Di Lorenzo.
I just wanted to weigh in a little bit, yeah? So I agree in terms of Fagioli's mistake there. If you ask me, I don't think Fagioli, I'm sorry to say, I don't think he's Azzurri standard. Had we had Mr. Gambler not suspended or not out of it, he would have been he should have been the starting.
Or reaching.
I would say that there was a little bit, because you saw the deflection, right? I think it hit Mancini's inner thigh, then then it caught.
That happens. Right. Yeah. That happens. That's not on Mancini's at all. But that should never happen. Like, we've seen that multiple times over this past season with our club. How many times our midfielders don't run back and defend. And the second goal and the worst defender of this tournament for Italy was Di Lorenzo. On the second goal, Vargas had a clean shot on goal. Di Lorenzo just sat there and looked at him while he shot. Throw your body in there. And we said this before on our show. We said it with Tomori. Put your head in the way. Don't be afraid of getting hit. Do something. And this is where I don't want to put the blame on Spalletti. A lot of people are blaming Spalletti for his choices. Yes, he chose. There could have been people he could have chose differently for this team. Sure. But at the end of the day, these are the players that he chose. He stuck with Di Lorenzo, which was a big mistake, in my opinion. Maybe he could have played Bellanova in that position. But he didn't. But come on, man. Like, Di Lorenzo had the worst performance. Forget about the performance against Spain, because Nico Williams would destroy anybody 1v1. Most fullbacks in football.
So, with regards to Di Lorenzo, and two things. Yeah. One, obviously this is favoritism, because Spalletti, he used to be
of course, and he admitted it too.
Yeah.
He admitted it as well.
We get that, fine. But the fact is that when people are saying that it doesn't make Calabria look that bad, now that's worrying.
Yeah, Calabria would have been a huge upgrade. Completely.
If Calabria made the mistake, and every Milan fan would be like, that's probably what you get.
But at least
that's the best you're gonna get from this guy.
My God, and it's crazy how Di Lorenzo is being. I think who's going after him this summer. I don't know. There was talks about him coming to Milan. I think too. Some Milanistas wanted him.
No.
I want to say, but now. Then we see how he I'm faster than him on the pitch. It seems like at this point. Christ, man. Like,
Yeah, I think even Florenti might have given a better performance.
yeah, for sure.
We got players, by the way. We got
We
players.
got players. We could have had one Milanista on the national team, besides Gabia, obviously. I'm looking at the chat. It looks like we got somebody new in the chat. Avel17. I need 10 Red Bulls to watch the England game without sleeping. Yeah, I mean that's another. Southgate's another. He's on the hot seat as well. Yeah. So moving on, let's go on. So enough about the Azzurri performances. Over the other games, we know how they went. Let's not dive into that much. Let's get into our thoughts about Spalletti. So one thing I wanted to bring up before we got into our thoughts about Spalletti. Yesterday, there was some commotion, some debate, things being said about Spalletti during his press conference. I don't know if you caught this, Husni. So according to one report, an Interista of all people, media, put this out yesterday. Let's put this up. Hold on. He put down, according to his translation of Spalletti's interview, Inter won the Scudetto much earlier. I went around and made sure that Inzaghi kept training intensely all the way until the end of the season. But it could be that mentally they weren't so sharp. So people saw this initial post from this Interista media publication in Italy. And they said, how dare he talk about Inter players in that way, talking about they weren't mentally, like blaming, they were taking this quote and saying that he blamed the loss on the Inter players on the squad. Players like Bastoni and DeMarco, etc. Because they weren't mentally ready, because they weren't being trained. They took their foot off the gas in training because they were so far ahead in Scudetto race. So people went with this, a lot of big like Twitter accounts, like, I'm not going to name names. They repost this as this was truth. And I reached out, I said, where's your source? Did he actually say this during the press conference? Or this was just a bad translation? Because we already want to blame Spalletti for his bad management. I get it. But because as a former coach and somebody who's been around the game and been around pro coaches, blaming coaches is one thing, but you start putting out lies, potential lies, trying to make them look bad, trying to ruin their reputation, right? Like he's throwing people under the bus the way that he supposedly did, or calling them names like he's a shit manager, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. No, he does actually. He's a professional coach. So let me show you a few other quotes to kind of.
But you can't deny that there's one thing about the bad translation, but definitely the thing that would definitely get picked up is the sensationalist news, the sensationalist takes on this.
Yeah, but they got it. If you're a journalist, right, and you need to be, it's all about reputation. I know, and it's Interista too.
I get that, Nicko, but journalists, like at any other job, you get them in all shapes, sizes, and competency, right?
Oh, I agree. So I reached out to John, like La Gorilla, and I said, did you see anything about this in Italian newspapers? So he sent me this yesterday. This is from the Gazzetta. So he said, moving forward, so I'm responsible for what happened. I chose the players, and it's clear that I'm on a path where I have to make some acquaintances. So according to this Gazzetta, he took 100% responsibility for what happened during the Euros. He's like, I messed up. I selected the players. It's on me, which is, and then.
I appreciate this answer more than
Me too.
what we heard from our previous coach, purely saying that, for like, he would say something like, for the 70th minute, we were still in it, we had a good chance of winning. You hear this sort of BS, by the way. So you could say being honest with your mistakes, I'll consider it a plus.
And I appreciate that too. As a coach, at the end of the day, you're the face of the team. In this case, he's the face of the country, right? Of the national team. it is your job to take full responsibility and not throw any player under the bus. Which even Tuchel's really bad at that too. We consider a really high level coach. He's terrible at throwing players under the bus all the time. By the way, so I mean I have one last piece to share with you right here, and you can. So this was another piece here. So this is kind of closer to what we saw before. So according to this, I was in touch with how often Inter was training, but perhaps you are subconsciously not as applied when you have won the league so early. After suggesting he pushed his players too hard in training before the draw against Croatia. This time he said he had let them rest and made 6 changes to his lineup. So this is a complete different translation to what the other one said. So what is your take on this comment here?
I
How do you take this? How do you interpret this one?
If I were him, I wouldn't even, well, if it's true what he said, I wouldn't really talk about other teams. Focusing on a single team or really mentioning it, to me, it doesn't really add value. Because at the end of the day, it's like you show up for the Azzurri training camp. It's like you leave all your club jerseys behind, right? You have to look at individual players, individual abilities, and how they all gel together. And everyone knows for a large group of these players, I wouldn't say all of them, they've all trained together before, by the way. Not everyone there is a fresh member of the Italian national squad. So this thing about the intensity and professionalism is like, why does it even need to be spoken about? Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, this is something I think this is out of pure frustration, and I was surprised that he even said this, being that I heard his other press conferences during the Euros, and he was completely professional, something that we would have liked our former coach to have been during the last few seasons, obviously. It looks like Christian's is in the chat. What's up, Christian?
big shout out Christian Pasmino.
Yeah, so he actually goes, is Gabbia, let's do this, let's give him a shout out. Is Gabbia our only Italian player? We'll get into that in a little bit. Actually, I've spoken about this 100 times, how we don't have any Italian players on the team.
Don't have is one thing, Nico, but don't want, that's worrying.
Yeah, well, we'll get that in a little bit, and then obviously our next show in August, once we have our final transfer windows done and we know who's on the club, we can definitely really dig into to management on the selections at that point, for sure. All right, let's get into the next one here. So that being said, so this one thing I wanted to say before my before my daughter jumped into the room. We had talked about how much time Spalletti had with the team, right? Right. So, quick thing, a couple notes, things that I wanted to say about that is, first of all, Nagelsmann had, I think, the same amount of time or less, and I think maybe Ragnick as well, Austria, but for sure Nagelsmann had a lot less. But you saw how maybe it's the quality of players that he has as well, which makes a difference. But Nagelsmann was able to implement his tactics, his style of play, his identity on the club much faster than Spalletti does. So just something to put out as well. There's a lot of factors into that as well. So at the end of the day, Spalletti looks like he's going to stay, and we're going to jump into that in a second. Let me talk about
that,
this.
Nico.
Yeah.
I get the when you spoke about quality, I get it. Yeah. So if you take it player by player, you would say that okay, either they're having a better season or that they're playing at a higher level, because for the Azzurri, if you go player by player, can you really say that some of these people who played yesterday, by the way, can you really say that they're playing at the highest level, that they have the biggest challenges in the past season? I'm sorry, I'm picking on him a little bit, but Di Lorenzo has had a terrible season.
Terrible.
What gives you as any coach, why would you pick him in any case? Yeah,
So
he's not even
there
playing
was
Europe next year.
there were so many options besides. So he had Villanova on the bench sitting there for one. In Italy alone, you have Coyote, right, who plays for Fiorentina, and I know that's a big thing going forward in the next cycle. Why is Italy stuck in these ways? They're not choosing these younger players to be called up to the first squad, to the national team,
And
who are
you can
great, are much better than Lorenzo. I mean, Coyote, if anybody's watched him, he's one of the most complete fullbacks at his age right now in Europe. He's a very sought out player. And he's much better defensively than Di Lorenzo is on his best day. And this is the thing that we're talking about for the next future, next window. And then hopefully FIGC has the thoughts. Hopefully this loss, this embarrassment, I wouldn't say embarrassment because they got out of the group stage, but disappointing competition, right? I think if they had lost all their games and not qualified out of the group stage into the group stage, they would have been a huge disappointment. But I don't think anybody expected them to win the Euros. That's just nonsense. But I hope this is a wake-up call, because good example, and I brought this up with John earlier today, Husni. So in '82, I was too young to even watch this game, but I've read about it. Was Brazil had this dominant team in '82? They had Socrates. They had this amazing. They had one of the best Brazilian teams ever, and they were favorites to win that World Cup. And they played against Italy, and Italy during that time was playing that catenaccio defense. They were like super strong defensively, and Italy dominated that game. And they kicked Brazil out of the tournament. Brazil, after that, the federation, the fans, the general public said, wait a second, are we doing something wrong playing our style of football? We just lost to a European team. Maybe we need to start playing more like Europeans do, which they start doing, a lot of teams. And you're seeing it now. Most Brazilian teams play more European style football based off of that loss.
Most of them play in Europe anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, and that was like the chain reaction. That was the starting point, like ground zero of that movement, of why you don't see that same flair from Brazilian teams or Brazilian players like we used to. That was like the start of it. And good or bad, it happened. It changed their thought process, the culture of Brazilian football. So
it did, but they still had their flair to it. I mean,
they fit. But I'm saying,
for example, Ronaldinho.
But I'm saying, I'm saying, talking about stylistically, that free flowing, they were playing more positional football.
Okay.
Even the teams, what was the last Brazilian team that won the World Cup? 2006 or 2?
No, 2006 Italy, right? The one before 2002. Yeah.
2002.
Yeah.
That team, even though they won that team, a lot of Brazilians that I've spoken to, even and now that I'm in South America, like Latin America, even though they won it, that's not the most loved Brazilian team of all time. They had great players, but overall, as the style of play, they played very European style football. They had the flair individual. They had individual. They had the abilities. You had Ronaldinho.
Ronaldinho.
And those
phenomenal.
Yeah, for now, individually they had those moments of brilliance, right, to break down players. But as a team, they were playing very European style. So I'm hoping with this loss that Italy had, this will open the federation's mind and say, hey, our U19 and U17 teams are dominating European football. There's kids coming up the system that are great individually players. They have the skills. Instead of them throwing them to Serie B and Serie C teams all the times and not giving opportunity, then selling overseas and then buying European, like buying English players, French players that are more experienced. And let's give these kids a chance on a big stage. Why not? Why shouldn't those players be on Inter, on Milan? Why? Because if they're, and I spoke about this with, give me your thoughts as well. Because most of these young kids, if they're coming to Serie A, They're being on Torino, Sampdoria, these small club, which is great. But is it great to bring them up to be competitive?
Yeah. My thoughts on that. Yes, it's good that they get playing time. So yeah, playing time is to
Of
any
course.
young player is valuable. But you're right, is that you play with these teams and it doesn't take you long to reach a ceiling for those teams. But that being said, we got players like Ricardo Rodriguez who played like that guy. A lot of teams wouldn't take him, by the way. But yesterday, yeah, he wasn't bad. Yeah, it's quite okay. So I mean, you could play it on that level, but it's really how much that you want it. So, and I am a bit concerned is that how a lot of big clubs in Serie A, us included as well, I think we coddle the players a bit too much. It's like, okay, we only give you like 20 minutes, 45 minutes. Oh, I don't want you to be like disappointed, demotivated. I don't know whether it's like a Gen Z or whatever generation that they're talking about. It's like once you have a bad performance, like this player is screwed up and all that. I get that. Yeah, it might affect someone's motivation by a big margin. But how was it done before? Maldini played at the start when
That's what I'm saying. So I think it
with
wasn't
other
always
kids.
Yeah. Like that, right? Because Maldini played, when he was like 18.
Yeah.
It was younger, maybe. So there was a time in Italian football and Serie A where they gave young kids a chance to play. They didn't give them away. They didn't send them overseas to another club.
Sorry, Maldini might not be a right example because someone might say, "Oh, he's Cesare's boy,
Yeah.
so
But
he's gonna get a chance."
there is more examples, right? But let's just,
Yeah.
there are definitely, I just don't know. But for sure, they had to be more than just Maldini at the time, right? But I don't know when that shift changed in Italy where they said, oh, well, you're 17, you're 18, you're not ready to play Syria. And we saw recently with Ibra, right? This is why teams are like Juve, Milan, have these next gen teams in Serie C, which is good. Yeah, it's a good thing. But if you remember what Ibra had said during his press conference, and we'll get into his conference in a little bit, our thoughts about what he said about the team going forward, the plans about Milan. He said the thing that stood out to me was, he said, well, these players like Camarda, well, maybe he's younger, but like Zaroli, the other kids in the Primavera, we all know are talented. They're not ready to make the jump into the senior team. That's why we create this U23 team, which I disagree with, because if you look at Spain, right? Look at Spain. Look at Germany. Who are their star players? Musiala. Spain, Yamal, right? So we're seeing kids younger and younger starting for their national teams, and they're starting for their club teams, and they're making an impact.
Yeah. I'm trying to find the reference here, but for Zlatan to say that, I just want to touch on that point is that if I'm seeing this correctly, and anyone who's online can correct me if I'm mistaken or absolutely wrong. Zlatan started when he was very young, by the way. If I'm
I think
seeing the news, he was like 15, 16 already, and he's playing for Malmo. So, what gives him the right to say that? Oh, some players not ready. He was ready. Yeah, no one. And at that time, he already had quite a bit of an ego, right? Saying that I play for Ajax, I'm great as well. So, what gives him the right to judge other people? Say that,
I think
you're ready.
I think Ibra, he's more of a company man now. He's that's what I think happened to Ibra. The persona he had as a player has changed, is shifted to more of a corporate person now.
But what can you say anymore? And I honestly, if you ask me, I don't want to believe that's true. Yeah. So Zlatan's done a lot. I won't take that away from him. But he continues to be in the public eye, and people expect great things, because what he's doing, and I'm paying very close observation. He's now the spokesperson for the club in a way. Yeah. People will listen to Ibra.
He's the
Okada never
face.
says anything. Forlani,
No.
no one gives a crap what he says. So Ibra is really the man. So if he really doesn't have a hand on the pulse, and if he doesn't say things that fans expect him to say to really pull us out of how we feel right now, then who else? It's really bad.
Yeah, let's we'll get into Ibra's press conference in a minute.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, who your best overall player was, you think, during this tournament for the Azzurri?
Tough one. As a standout, I can't really see who. If I had to pick one, could I say Chiesa for the green tie a little bit, maybe? Yeah.
You could.
Yeah. No one really strikes a chord in saying that. Yeah, this guy.
Well, for a lot, it was Donnarumma, right? For a lot of people, it seems like he was,
Yeah,
he,
but
he did. I guess he did stood out. I mean, he was a standout in terms of, I think if it wasn't for him, they would have eaten a lot more goals.
it is. But and this is a problem. A lot of people say when your best player or the person you rate highly is the goalkeeper, there's a big problem with the team, right? So I really want to avoid saying a goalkeeper in any situation. But yeah,
But I mean, let's see. Even though he was an Interista, Bastoni had a pretty solid performance overall. He was
for a guy who won the Scudetto, not good enough. I'm sorry. I know it's hating a little bit, but being
he
just
didn't
above average is not good enough for me.
Yeah, I think offensively, there was a couple of times he could have scored the goal. There was a chance.
Definitely, yeah. There's a lot of could have happening, but
there was that one game. I think it was against Croatia, where he got a cross and he was on the back post, and even Spalletti said he hit it with pace too, right? The header, but it was too high up. It was where the ball was hit. In terms of the height, was a perfect height for the keeper to make the save. It looked like a spectacular save. It was a very good save, but for most top professional keepers, that's a pretty you expect to make it. And even Spalletti said it after the game. He's like, he should have put that away. He should have put that either on the top bin or lower, somewhere where the keeper couldn't have gotten the ball. So I guess yes.
So the fact that we have to apply this language of approximation to a national team, I think that's quite telling already, right? These guys are supposed to be the best. I mean, I just can't make excuses for them.
I mean, even Calafiori, I guess we could say Calafiori, he impressed a lot of people. I guess us as Serie A fans, we knew about the kid for a while, right? Even before Bologna, he was coming up the ranks. And obviously now that the world has seen him, they think he's the next coming of Nesta.
We've all heard that before, by the way. We've all heard that before.
And it's like I said, slow down. I said, listen, yes, he's a good player. He's has a lot of talent. But before we started throwing those kind of names around in the conversation, let's give this kid more time. Does he have a lot of talent? Sure. Did he make a big play at the end of the game against Croatia, taking the ball up the pitch and hitting Zakanya on the left, and for that goal? Beautiful. But let's see what he does for the next 4 or 5 seasons.
So many players with talent, Nicko, but I honestly don't think that we have the right coaches for them. So even if we were to get Calafiori, can you tell me? I know you've done an analysis on this before. What is Fonseca's system with the players that we have?
We don't know.
You think has a good potential? I mean, I could say that Bartizaghi has good potential. Where is Buongiorno coming in? A lot of these players I know were bought with a lot of potential, but this is why I feel very bad about what happened with the coach situation and where we're at. It's just a lot of the same.
Well, let's get into that right now, actually, since we're on that conversation. Realistic expectation for next season. All right. So we know Fonseca is the new coach. In terms of style of play, we have no idea. I know people are out there saying he's going to play this formation. We have no clue. He doesn't have his players in set yet. We don't know who we're getting for next season, who's coming, who's going, right? every day it seems like they change. We're getting a new attacking midfielders, new right backs, Matty Cash, et cetera, et cetera. We have no idea. But with what did you hear? So first off, did you listen to Ibra's press conference?
I read it. I read that.
Okay, what are your thoughts? What were your thoughts on that when you compare that to what Jerry has said during his all these financial conferences that he's gone on in the last few months, and what he's talked about the team? If you compare those two.
Yeah, so you're right. As what you said, he's Jerry's mouthpiece, and Jerry can't be everywhere. So Ibra pretty much saying what essentially what Jerry has told him to repeat. I know that for a fact, yeah, and Ibra played with this let's say last season, the season before that. I had thought at that moment the team outgrew him, and now that I see based on what he said, the fans have outgrew him. So I'm disappointed. Yeah, if you could say that, I'm disappointed. But for a fan like me, that's expected. It's too much to ask, really, that we have someone that speaks on behalf of fans, that speaks on one's ambition, wants us really to do well. So yeah, it's that effort. I'm disappointed. Yeah, he answered quite a bit of questions. We knew really what the answers to come out. So, for example, why Fonseca came in, pretty much answered itself, that why we didn't pick Conte, and it actually comes to the fact that we don't want someone to get all their boys in, all their players in, and if it doesn't work out, we're essentially left cleaning up their mess. Yeah, I get that, but cleaning up the mess after winning a title is different than never getting a title or never getting close. So that's a different sort of mess. But management feels that is sufficient. I mean, that's where we should be at, and we can't really complain much as fans because they won't listen to us. Ultimately, it boils down, 2.5 million. And can you believe it? The Zerbi went to where? Marseille, right?
Marseille, I think. I don't know if it's a done deal, but it looks like Marseille is getting him. If it's done, I'm not sure.
Everyone was saying that, there's no one who's willing to pay a buyout and all that. But hang on, wait a minute.
Marseille, both teams.
30 million for players, but you can't fix a very critical position that affects your whole entire backroom stuff. I mean, it's laughable, really, what people think about our situation.
And people don't realize when you're talking about a coach, you're also talking about the people that he's bringing in, right? So not just you bringing in what medical staff, assistant coaches, video analysts. This is like he's bringing in. He's responsible for the whole thing. The coach is the face of the team, but and from what I saw, looking at Fonseca's coaching staff from last season at Lille, I think he had 2 assistant coaches. I want to say, I can't remember, but I believe one of them didn't even have his UEFA card. I might be wrong about that, and I could be wrong. But it was something that really stood out. I was like, "What the hell is this guy? He's an assistant coach. He doesn't have his UEFA license."
It's like getting intern, man. It's cheap. That's why he's asking for 2.5 million.
Dude, at least have UEFA B. I don't expect you to have your A license. That's very difficult to get.
Illegal, right?
Legal, which is but. Let me give you my thoughts on Ibra's, and then a couple other things about expectations about next season. I read it and I also listened to it as well. And Ibra's ego came out big time. It seemed like he was talking about himself a lot, I was like, wait a second, this is about the club. So obviously, and then it
maybe
was
he's
really
defecting. That's what I thought.
But it's Ibra, so take it for what it is. But then I noticed Furlani, Moncada, and maybe Jerry was there in the audience. Maybe Jerry wasn't there, but for sure Furlani was there. And I kept noticing how they were looking at Ibra with like this, and my feeling was like, don't say it. They put Ibra there to be the fall guy. So if Furlani went up there or Jerry, all right. But Ibra's the proxy. He's the face of the club right now, right? Taking over from Maldini in a sense. And it's like, well, we told you what to say. We've talked about this. We prepped you for this interview, all right? you're going to say exactly this is what you're going to say about the club. You're not going to dict. You're not going to go off and have your thoughts and on what's going on with this club. You're going to say exactly. You're going to be in line with the company. Line. And if you mess up, your job is on the line. Don't deviate from what we've told you to say.
Don't be Maldini.
Don't be a Maldini. Don't say we expect to win the Scudetto next season and expect to do great things. Don't do it. All right. And then the thing with the coaching, when it was crazy to me, they didn't even bring up Conceição, that they were even interested in him. And I was like, wait a minute. Conceição was available, and you didn't even fail to even look at him, even for a second. That's what you're telling me.
We don't know how the evaluations are done. If you ask me, Conceição, I mean, if you look at it side by side comparison stats, the choice is obvious. But to them, their primary selection criteria is salary. Yeah, that's it.
Well,
yeah.
that's true. That's it. And then they went for some guy who was desperate for a top job and said, we're going to give you 2.5. Okay. Yeah, I'll take it. Because I'll be with Milan right now. And then, for me, it just, besides it seemed choreographed and the whole thing, I don't trust the club. I don't trust what he said. And it's disappointing. I mean, it is, I expected it, I guess, being that we already know that he's the proxy for Jerry. And in terms of expectations, so there's Nathan's here. Hey, Nathan. What's going on?
How's it going, guys?
Hey, quick shout out to Lab. He's in the chat. Lab. How are you, Lab? Hey, what's going on, Nathan? Welcome.
Oh, man. I'm glad I was able to wake up.
So how you been? Real quick. How's everything?
Everything's good. Everything's good. I went out last night, so I was a bit tired, but that's okay. I'm here.
All right. So we were talking about the Ibra's conference, his press conference, our thoughts about that, expectations going into next season. Did you catch the Ibra press conference?
No, I did not.
Oh,
give me like a little rundown.
So it was a few weeks ago. He was a pretty much AC Milan media press conference. It was controlled by Milan, and he talked about his role at the club, his position, the process of, I guess, who they selected, Fonseca, things like that.
Oh, okay.
We were getting our thoughts about it, and it was pretty much we kind of agreed on it was listen, we already know the direction that we're going with. They selected Fonseca based on salary, even though looks like Azzurri's going to Marseille of all teams.
Yeah.
And then I was surprised that
he was like a puppet. Like
it was a puppet. We already know that. Yeah, I mean he's a proxy for the club. He's Jerry's voice piece, like that buffer between him and the fans, right? Because Jerry doesn't want to deal with the fan base.
Funny? It's funny that you said he's being used as a buffer between the fans, but Maldini was that as well too. But Ibra's also supposed to be the link with the players and the owner as well, and he's completely neglected that aspect. And in terms of connecting with the fans, he keeps saying all this stuff, but then it's interesting because I think Jerry said that he sees us fans as like partners, but then, but instead of listening to a partner, these guys just do the complete opposite. So it's like he's just throwing Ibra in there just to have him there, honestly.
Well, Ibra took I guess Ibra's getting paid a pretty healthy salary as well. So I think that's part of it. And he's getting to learn from Jared. He wants to be part of that business at this point of his career. So, he's going to be told what he says to be told. Whatever Jerry says, he's just going to repeat it, I believe.
Yeah.
And, in terms of Maldini, I mean, listen, I try to stay away from Maldini, being that for me, it's still it's a very sensitive subject for me. Being that I try to stay away from, but you brought it up, and other podcasts have opened that wound again, talking bad about Maldini.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm not going to throw their name out there, but they're pretty popular, and it's just the same agenda about Maldini. He made mistakes. It is what it is. He got kicked out of the club. But a quick things about Maldini. So backstory for myself, why I have strong feelings about the whole thing, and I try to forgive the club, but it's difficult. Me growing up, I started watching Maldini before watching Milan. My uncle, he came back from Europe one year with some VHS tapes and some magazines from Europe, from Italy, with AC Milan. And Maldini's like, dude, who's Maldini? Is like, I was a young kid playing center back at the time, sweeper at my club. I'm like, dude, who's this guy playing left back? What the hell, man? I was like, oh shit. And at that point, once I started knowing more about him, I was like, dude, this is before I became a Milanista. I started playing left back, and I started watching the tapes again and again, seeing how he moves, how he plays the game. I was like, all right. So then when I went to college, I went to high school, played left back. And when I went to college and I made the team as a walk-on, it was a Division III team, college in New York. I played left back for like a couple. I wasn't a starter, but that was it. So for me, that's the reason why the whole Maldini thing was pretty upsetting. Because at the end of the day, and Husni, I want to get your words on it really quick. I didn't want to, since we're here. Regardless of what, I understand what happened, but you don't treat that kind of player in that fashion, and I'll leave it at that. So, your thoughts on that, Husni? We'll just move on to the next topic. I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't
Open
speak
up
too
that
much about what happened to Maldini. We've spoken a lot about it before, but my take on it is that I think Jerry thinks with Ibra appointment, he's appointed a Maldini equivalent. Sorry, no. He is not Maldini. I don't think he can ever be Maldini. Even the way that they were before as players, completely different. So why would you even think this? Put someone who's accomplished a lot. By the way, Maldini is a much more accomplished player, by the way. So it's definitely not comparable. I don't want to belittle Ibra. He's done great things as well, but he's not a legend. Yeah? I'm sorry to say, people might disagree with me. I don't think Ibra is a legend of the club.
No, and then the relationship between the players, we saw Maldini always at the training at Milano, at the training sessions with the team, talking with the players, being an inspiration for these players, right? Have we seen Ibra once do that? I don't think so. He's more of a corporate guy, which is fine. It is what it is. But Nathan, when I asked Husni this question, what is your expectation, like realistic expectations going into next season? And I'll get into mine.
I don't think we're going to get. I don't think we're going to get any of our targets in this team. It's just not going to happen. Anything over 40 million is just not going to happen. We're probably going to get, some rinky-dink unknown player again, and we're just going to have to hope Fonseca can do something with what he has. We bought too many players. That's the problem. There's no way these guys thought about Pioli in the long term. So why would you get 10 players for a coach that you know you're not going to keep? So you literally brought in too many players to even get rid of. So, I mean, you can bring in like maybe 2 or 3 now, and you just got to hope Fonseca can do something different. But Fonseca's record, especially in Italy, is really not that good. I know he did good in the Ukrainian league, but you're coaching Shakhtar, the best team in Ukraine. So, I mean, that doesn't even count in my book. So, I mean, I expect pretty much the same thing. We might get second. It really depends, honestly, on how the rest of the Seven Sisters do. So, obviously, Inter's going to be good, but Juventus.
Juve looks like they're making. I mean, at least Juve they're signing players. They got Douglas Luiz, who's a good midfielder that Mota believes in. Right, and there's Nathan. Okay, it doesn't happen. He just jumped out.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So Juve looks strong on paper. We don't know what they're going to be like, but they got an exciting coach in Mota.
Mm-hmm. And
they're making moves, I guess. So from that point of view, our club, which is it's a running theme every season, we're always late to this party with the Mercado signings.
Yeah. So that's the next biggest thing is, out of all the teams who are getting coaches, we're getting the worst one. Juventus gets Mota, Inter has Inzaghi, Roma has De Rossi, and we just got to see how Lazio does. We got to see how Conte does with Napoli.
Well, don't forget Gasparini's team too. Gasparini's team,
Atalanta as well. So
they're a dangerous team coming in.
If these teams all show up, man, we could be looking at a fight for 5th and 6th instead of 2nd. We got lucky last year. None of the teams showed up last year.
Well,
Only Inter showed up.
Juve did until they lost to Inter and then they dropped off the face of the earth. But they were technically in second place a lot longer than we were.
Yeah, exactly.
So
if these teams all show up, man, we could be. It can get ugly.
So, I'll give you my thoughts on next season, my realistic expectations, and a couple other things. Doesn't look well. Honestly, I don't expect too much. I think knowing that I've come to the realization and of the club's direction, I've stopped fighting to what I think should have been done right, what players we should have signed, going after Italian players like we've spoken about before, Nathan. There's a ton of Italian talent out there which we're not even touching. That being said, it is what it is. They don't want to do it. Fine. But
the U23 team might be watched more than Milan.
I believe so. Yeah.
I really think that will be the most watched team out of the two Milans.
Hopefully stream those games. I think serious cheat games where they're tough to find. They're not on every platform, I believe. Am I correct on that, Husni?
Do you think?
Sorry, what did you say, Nicko?
Yeah, you were saying that the Serie A cheat games. Do you know if they're streamed at all?
I don't think so. I did check my package, by the way, for us here in Asia. They're not. I do hope at least we carry them into the Milan app or YouTube. After all, I don't need a big sponsorship deal or broadcast deal for these games, right?
No. I think Serie B games are streamed. I think Fox Sports has it in the US, and some other channels have Serie B. So I'm hoping we can get some Serie C games to watch the next gen team next season and how they perform.
Do you think that can change because Jerry did his little investment with Paramount?
Well, according to this, hold on. Right now, Paramount hasn't signed for Serie A yet.
Of course, they haven't.
They haven't done it. They haven't. They're still looking for. I think Serie A. They're looking for a different deal for next season for the United States. They want to broaden. According to the last thing I had seen, they're looking for a platform that could be for a wider audience going in.
Maybe ESPN.
Possibly, but nothing's official yet. I know for us down in Mexico, we have Disney Plus or ESPN is down in Mexico for Serie A games.
I will say the ESPN, especially ESPN Plus app, is a lot better than Paramount.
Well, the production or the broadcasters, they're more knowledgeable.
Just the overall quality, like the games look better. Like when I watch Milan, the games look so dark. And then when I go on ESPN Plus and I watch, like La Liga or Bundesliga, like everything is so vibrant. So just the quality, I think, is a bit better as well. I mean, the commentators just it's whatever, I guess. But
But
I would
can I just
prefer it on ESPN, honestly.
weigh in the thoughts on that? So I don't know if you guys know this, but back in the year after COVID, so this 2021, for the Middle East, either Serie A or FIG, whoever the hell it is, couldn't get a broadcasting deal for the Middle East region, and we watched all the games on YouTube.
That,
I think at least for Serie C, and I guess a case can be made for Serie B, let people watch it for free. Let them get used to Italian football or Italian soccer, as you guys might call it. Get people hooked to it at least, yeah, and they'll find their way into liking the league and getting more support, and that should really prime the pump in terms of getting the league back to where it once was, because we were the Premier League, yeah. Serie A was the Premier League of like 90s and early 2000s.
For a time.
How could it have fallen off so far, so bad? We're not even in second place. This is the worst part. But it just has to be a lot of innovation, and I really have to applaud what they do in Germany. Is like, just for the sake of getting more viewers, they force the players to do the press conferences in English. Reduce the language barrier. They have a lot of English content along with German, and they have a lot more tech. They had the body cam and all that. Like, wait a second, these aren't new ideas, but how come the league is not thinking about it?
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Bundesliga, they do a halftime interviews too.
Yeah,
which is more of the NFL style, like an American. They're putting that in, which is interesting as well for the younger generation of fans too, to give them a different, extra value to the broadcast insight, which is really cool. As me, and I think with La Liga in ESPN, they had the option for a tactical camera as well to watch the game from a different view. So if you're into watching the structure of the team, the way they're moving up and down the pitch, you can watch that game in a different mode. These are things that Italy should be thinking about long term now. If you want to move forward with your production level and bring more fans in, especially younger fans. The older fans don't care. Most older fans could care less. I would think. But is to add extra value, and that, like Husni said, that language barrier as well.
And Husni, you brought up a good point about just let people watch for free. That is what the EPL did to get big in the United States. They pretty much just gave the rights up, and you could just watch the games for free in the US. And then once it got more popular, then they started charging. And I remember Italy, I think it was after the Euros. Maybe it was India or somewhere in like the Asia area. They were saying they wanted more money, and they were upset that they wouldn't get as much from that region, and that's why they weren't broadcasting over there, which is just insane because you got to start from somewhere. Like, it's increase the price later on, but our biggest fan base is in Asia. So it's like, why would you limit the biggest region from watching just because y'all want a few extra coins? It's just the way they're doing things just so ridiculous.
Yeah, and on that point, Nathan, is that it's about being, what's the term, penny wise, pound foolish. Yeah, so you're looking for all these like million here, million there, but the billions that you could stand to make is ridiculous. And just to tell you guys, if you don't already know, one of the biggest fan bases is actually Indonesia, and big shout out to all the Indonesians that may be watching this. Yeah, the reason why they watch a lot of Serie A, and I've seen it here back in Malaysia, so we have a lot of Indonesian tourists. They proudly wear AC Milan shirts walking around the mall, something that I think a lot of places really don't do in Asia, especially. So it doesn't matter EPL, because they okay. I'm not running anyone down any nationality, but in a lot of places in Asia, English isn't as widely spoken, so that language barrier doesn't count for shit. Sorry,
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
for swearing. It doesn't really count. But you got to have a product that appeals to people. You got to have, the quality needs to be there. Why is there no innovation? If it's difficult to get a deal, put it on YouTube. Charge a subscription. Like put like $1 there. The number of people who won't like skimp on a subscription or might actually just subscribe to it, it'll easily pay back for itself. I don't
I
understand
agree.
why it's like no big picture thinking behind this league.
Let me ask you this. Well, since you brought, why there's so many fans, Milan fans in that part of the world? Is there a particular reason? I'm just curious. Is there a particular
If you ask
player?
If you ask me at that time, the club itself was also thinking far ahead. I didn't know this, but I was told this by an Indonesian fan. Milan, back when Maldini was playing, actually played in Jakarta once. They actually
Right.
came to this part of the world. I know that a few EPL clubs did so as well, but you really have to do these things. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to say, and I don't mean it against any country, but I see the benefit of them playing in Australia. It's also a good market there, but it was quite a hassle for people from outside of Australia to get there. I mean, with the visas and all that, even for me personally. So, if anyone from the club is ever listening, please, next preseason or have it somewhere, just go play like in China, for example, in Korea. You'll have plenty of fans, yeah.
You
High-
listening,
really
Jerry?
populous country.
Jerry, if you're listening, listen to Husni.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then also, because our biggest markets are over there, why not scout like the next best player in the Oceania area? Like why not get the next best Japanese kid or the
And
next best
Japanese, and
South
You mean
Japanese,
Honda?
yeah.
You mean
Oh.
like
Honda?
or the next best South Korean or something, like, just do things that show, hey, look, I appreciate it. We saw someone that's fantastic over there. We're gonna bring him into the team.
Well,
Just
Nathan. So out of all those countries, I would say Japan because they're technically the best players right now. They have a foundation in Japan in terms of the way they're developing players. From my experience, I could be wrong, but I think so. Milan does have academies in other countries. There, correct? Maybe in
I'm
India, but
I'm
I
not
think
entirely sure.
those are so like I know, for example, Real Madrid has an academy here in Tulum. And I was I was driving through the highway the other day with my wife down in Tulum, and I saw this big sign, Real Madrid Academy. I was like, oh, but it's part of this very exclusive country club. They have this, and I go, and to me, I think in a lot of cases where these clubs are putting these academies, that's what they just. I think it's for marketing. Is just to draw. It's just a money cat. It's just to bring more money into the club. I don't think the developing players per se, or trying to look for players in that region to bring to Milan to their academy per se. I think it's just to develop kids, to show them some skills, to invite some coaches over, do some seminars.
Almost like a
charge
summer camp.
It's like a summer camp, but they call it an academy. And they said they charge, especially Tulum. Most of these people can't even afford those kind of prices. I'm sure they're charging an arm and a leg. It's for people with a lot of money to say, "Oh, I trained at Real Madrid for a month." But your chances of your kid getting looked at from a real scout and going, "Wow, this kid's actually talented. Let's bring him over to Spain for a tryout," is very unlikely, I think. So, that's the thing we need to. I think anybody listening out there and talking about your kid joining a team or whatever, be careful. The academy name is thrown around like anything else nowadays. Just a quick FYI.
Yeah, seems like if you're in, I'm gonna exclude United States because the way our academies work are just, it's not the same as the rest of the world. You're really better off just going outside. If you're in the United States, you're better off not being in the United States because of how expensive things are. Just traveling for tournaments that come out of your pocket or your parents' pockets. It's just, Yeah, you're
We
spinning.
can. I think Nathan, it'll be good for us. We can do a whole show on that one day.
Man, you go for
we,
hours on
we'll
this
definitely
topic.
we'll definitely do something in the future on the American pay to play system for sure. Let's do
Man.
that. Let's plan on that for sure.
Did you guys already talk about the Italy game?
We did.
Yeah, we did, but we want your take
Man,
on it.
so yeah, I wanted to get my thoughts, guys, because we kind of jumped off to different stuff. So my expectations for next season, really quick, because we're running into a little bit over an hour now. Top four, I think four. I don't top two, or even finishing 32nd is very unlikely. Just the way things are planned out, unless we make this huge signing in the next couple of weeks, which I doubt. I don't see as what I want to see is, so supposedly Fonseca is this great coach that develops young players, correct? That's what everybody says.
Yeah.
Am I right?
That's
This
what
is
they
what
said
we
about
keep
John
hearing.
Bialo.
This is what we keep hearing from all the people that support Fonseca to a really high degree. Okay, that being said, what I want to see then, I want to see us, the kids that are performing well in the under 23 team, I want them promoted to the senior team during the season and get played significant minutes. I want to see Simic getting significant minutes. I want Zaroli playing significant minutes as well. Jimenez as well. I don't want seeing Theo being run in and run out game after game. You have these kids in the system, play them. I want to see Bartazagi used a lot more. I want to see even Tereshano, if he stays with the team. I want him to play a lot more as a right back. If we're not going to get a right back during this offseason. Those are my expectations of the club.
Yeah,
At
Nicko,
least.
sorry to disappoint you. I think if Simic doesn't sign renewal, I don't think he's.
No,
staying.
and I don't blame him.
Even to be honest.
Well, let's be honest. He's looking at somebody like Kourbassi from Barcelona, his counterpart, right? That's like somebody's like, that's my competition, right? He's another young center back.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, I'm good as him. I'm physically strong as him. I've showed it. I played with the first team and I did pretty well, right? He performed okay.
And tactically astute as well.
Astute played, okay. And you see the way the work that and he's a leader for the Primavera.
Yeah.
He's looking at his career going, what do I want to stay at U23 and waste my time? I could be the next great center back of Europe. For that's his confidence level. I don't know, but if he does, that's where you want to be mentally as if you want to be a great player, have that ego. In my opinion, why wouldn't he leave and go to Germany if somebody gives him a promise you're going to be a starter for some mid-level German team?
Yeah.
Yeah, like what's his name? Leftist, the left back. Oh, what's his name?
Yeah.
He plays in the Premier League now.
Yeah, he left and went to what was it? AZ Alkmaar, I believe it was.
So it's with an
Yeah,
S.
but then he's in the Premier League now. Sorry, was it?
Was it? Anybody in the chat knows that question?
What's his
That
name?
answer? Let me take a look. Hold on. Yeah, if Gio was here, Gio would know. Gio was supposed to join, by the way, but he got caught up with something. Gio knows these answers like the back of his head.
Yeah, whatever his name, but you guys know the guy I'm talking about. So yeah. Essentially, he left. He decided, I'm done with this. I should be challenging Theo for the spot. And he can get sold to the Premier League, by the way. Yeah. So
and not just challenging, but not just challenging, but just we don't rotate. Like a lot of our injuries happen because our rotation policy is awful. Like we play a ton of games every year. Theo doesn't have to play 99% of the games.
Yeah, it's just especially at the pace. So, by the way, quick shout out to everybody in the chat, to Vince, Mancini, Skillard, Christian.
That's
Vince,
me, by the way.
Oh yeah, Lab Gorilla. Who else is in the chat? Let's take a look. All right, yeah, everybody in the chat. Appreciate everybody watching on X as well. Appreciate it. Come over to the YouTube channel and subscribe to the channel and like our videos as well. All right. Back to what we were saying in terms of Theo, right? So my opinion on Theo, with any player, if it's replaced with the way Theo runs, his pace, right? How long could he last physically for a whole season without getting severely injured at some point? That's another thing you need to think about.
Yeah.
Because what you're risking him getting hurt for like pulling a hamstring or blowing out a knee, worst case scenario, and you miss him out for the whole season just because you keep running him out there to the pitch because you don't think you have a viable replacement for him. And we do have him. Jimenez could do it for a stretch. He's not a terrible player. He was part of Real Madrid's youth system, so the kid got talent. It's not like we picked him up from some small club in France or something that he's unknown.
It's funny because we don't rotate. If something like that happens, and then you have to use a Primavera player, the player isn't ready, so it's almost like a shock to them. And then you're going to be in panic mode because it's like, oh my God, we have to use this little kid, and he's never played at all. Well, if you would rotate properly and you would get these guys minutes throughout the season, they would be ready in case something like this happens. They just slot right in.
Well, that's why I'm hoping. That's what I do. I don't expect a lot from Fonseca, and I don't. Being two things. I just as a coach, I don't think very highly of him. Just my opinion. And two, he's not getting support from management. That's pretty obvious. So I'm hoping with that, the players that he has at his disposal, plus the younger kids, he does rotate them in and out a lot more regularly than Pioli did, and give them a chance to prove themselves, and not put them in.
Just scored.
Well, he did good. We're all. I think everybody here wants England to lose at this point. Who do you have winning that game, Husni? By the way.
Sorry, I'm not catching it. Who's playing now?
Slovakia, England, right?
Yep.
Slovakia. I really hope they win.
Yeah. By the way, do you guys see that somebody they put something together? I guess after Italy's lost, like an Italian, very typical Italian-looking guy with pasta on his head. So I guess the comments were saying, "Well, what happens if England loses? We're going to see fish, like the same thing, but fish and chips." Yeah,
But
listen,
yeah.
I think if England loses really quick, that's a bigger disappointment than Italy getting kicked out.
Yeah, because Switzerland is actually a good team.
Well, it was not even that, but Southgate's been with the club a lot longer with the national team, and he does have more talent on the club. If you like, you're just talking
And
about
they're top favorites every tournament.
Yeah. And they have these higher expectations from their country as well. They're expected to do something. So, hopefully they get kicked out. I don't have to hear about anything from the EPL fans, the remaining tournament.
Yeah, Nick. See, when it comes to the U23 team, I'm worried that we're gonna send our best Primavera players there when those top 3 or 4 players should be with the first team, and then we're just never gonna see them until they're older. Like that's what I was saying. Like we bought so many players when we should have promoted players that it's gonna be difficult just because of the unless you can drop players into the U23. I'm not sure how that works.
I don't think it's possible.
Okay, yeah, because we have so many players. I don't know how you can even fit Primavera players in there. To be honest, like it's gonna be interesting to see how this works. Because I would much rather see players like Liberali, Zaroli.
Well, that would make me happy. Like even though the expectations in terms of performance, I don't expect a lot, but I would be more interested in watching the games this season in tune. Get to watch those younger kids have a chance to play. It'll be more exciting for me as a fan, going seeing these kids come up and see what they can do. Because at the end of the day, they're going to be able to push the senior players a little bit more, and they're hungrier as well. They'll show more fight on the field than some of these other guys.
Yeah, and on top of that, Nathan, you said the correct thing there. it's not sustainable to want to buy everyone for each position, right? You're gonna have a
Yeah.
mix. You're gonna have to take some guys from Primavera. Who's the
That's
last guy that we took Primavera to start? Is it Calabria? Really?
and that's why you have them, and
Thanks,
that's why
Mihailovic, by the way.
and that's the
Calabria and
reason,
Gabia.
and that's the reason for your Primavera
Gabriel.
is for that exact reason, is to promote him up the ranks.
Yeah. Like we keep, and it's so funny because in the other group chat that I'm in with Roy and them, I got into a bit of an argument with one of the guys' name is Red John, and
I know Red John. He's a wild character. Yeah.
yeah, he's a wild guy. And I was telling him, he was, we're on the topic of, there's not good Italian players coming up. And so I said, did you watch any of the youth World Cups or Euros in the past year or 2 to 3 years? No answer. Okay, well then you wouldn't know that we've won Euros. We've got the World Cup finals. Our Milan Primavera got to the finals of the Champions League. So why are we going to France or Germany or Portugal to buy youth players who are the same age as our Primavera, but with less success for club and country? Like if you're talking about an algorithm and you're talking about Moneyball, the Italian Primavera for club and country have been doing better at the same age ranges that we're trying to buy players. So why are you
Or-
getting them?
Nathan, even if you look at Serie B players, how many talented players are in Serie B?
Yeah.
There you go. There's another avenue. If you're looking for a more experienced player, if you say, well, if you really believe that the Primavera players are not ready for that jump, well, Serie B makes sense then too, right? Because that's right below Serie A, and you pick those players up because there's plenty of other Serie A teams that do that all the time.
Yeah.
Right, and also let's talk about ready players. We have Parisi, he's ready. We had Ricci, just to name a few. Right, Odogi, he's gone. He's over the EPL. He's out of our price range forever. And you have Coyote. It's just sitting there.
Coyote needs to be bought.
These are the players that. So for somebody to tell me we don't have ready-made players to come to Milan, or the other kids are, and give me the excuse they're not ready to play, that's not correct. That's just
And instead,
inaccurate.
we're looking at Emerson Royale.
Well, those are rumors.
Player that
We don't know.
care. I
It
don't
looks
really
bad
care.
regardless.
Right. The optics do not look good. Like you have Coyote, the next best upcoming right back for Italy, and your algorithm, your Moneyball algorithm says Emerson Royale. Yeah, that's the guy.
That's
Trash player that Tottenham doesn't want. That's who we want. Forget the future of Italy. I want Emerson Royale. That is just.
That's the direction it looks like we're going, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's also another point, is that what is really the metrics of our scouting? Yeah? Because it's always these foreign targets, and it's always easier to recruit from home, and you should have a better pulse on how players at home, even though in the Serie B or Serie C, how they're performing, by the way. So we all know this story, yeah? So we got Macias not too long ago. He was pretty much washed out, but hey, he was in the squad that won us the Scudetto, by the way. So are we saying that Italy in the lower levels is completely devoid of talent? I don't think so.
No, they're not. That's not right. They just.
We shouldn't have to go be like the reject shop or the reject bin for other EPL teams.
for
It worked to
like
a certain
Chelsea,
extent.
for
Yeah,
example.
it's worked to a certain extent, but look at Tomori now. I'm sorry to say, is that after the Scudetto, he's been so poor. Yeah, it's not the same player.
He's fallen off a lot as well. Yeah,
Well,
not trash, but he's
I'll
not
say
improved.
this. When Gabia came back in, it gave the sense of Tomori was playing with Kjaer again, because Kjaer and Gabia are really the same type of defender, and Tomori needs a person with tactical awareness so that way he can be more aggressive when pushing up on players. If you have Chow and Tomori, it's just a disaster. It's literally a disaster. Both players are physical, but they're defensive IQ is lacking. And in Italy, especially Italy, if you don't have a defensive brain, you're in trouble. So having Gabbia there helps Tomori out a lot because it's like
Well,
playing with
yeah,
a cat.
Gabby's a good box defender. He's good at positioning and all that. Just the basics that you need to be a good center back, right?
Yeah. But I see, and I love Tomori, but for his national career, I would tell him, look, we're gonna sell you not because we don't want you, but you obviously want to play for the English national team. And for whatever reason, you're getting skipped over just because you played Italy.
Well, this is my fear, Nathan, and I've thought about this too. Say if we sell tomorrow, I have no confidence in management
Yeah, neither do I.
that they're going to replace him with an adequate replacement. They're going to get some unknown center back.
Maguire. They're gonna bring in Maguire.
Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. I swear to God, Husni, I'm telling you right now, if we get Maguire, I'm trashing the management so hard and the coach this season. And I've been very good on the shows. I've been very even keel. You're gonna see a different podcast. It's gonna be rated X at that point. I swear to God, it's not gonna be pretty.
It really is interesting though. Like I would love to sit down and get a deep dive into how they actually do their little algorithm for scouting players.
Well, you know what the algorithm is? It's a joke. They're allergic to Italian players. End of story. That's the algorithm.
I don't know what it is. They got like a magic 8-ball kind of thing. You know, that's the only thing that they got going.
No, it said, hey, let's be like an EPL team. Let's try to outscore every team 6-5. And that's the goal of the team. That's the direction we want to go.
Yeah, let's joke on that one. Yeah, so they want to be high scoring, but they scored more gangsters than they will score against them. That's a joke.
Yeah, it's just.
Can like the Italian Federation, can they like implement some rules that clubs have to follow?
They had the rule years ago. So even Greece, right? Greece had that rule as well, that it was a certain percentage of Italians or Greek players you had to have in your team at some point.
Yeah,
but at some point, I don't know when it's changed. I don't know if UEFA put the change or the federation themselves, but obviously that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, because we have the homegrown rule, but the homegrown rule means, as long as you come through the youth system, you're considered a homegrown player. So even if you're not,
which makes sense,
Italian national, you'll fall in line with the UEFA rules of having a certain number of homegrown players on the team in order to, when you're registering the team. But there needs to be like a nationalized rule or something that says you need to have more than half of an Italian on the squad, because this is just, and especially after the Euros, like this Euro should tell you everything. And that's why I ask people, to watch these youth teams play. When watching Barella, who else is there? Cristante and Fagioli. None of these guys are dribblers. None of these guys look to beat their man on the ball. They look to pass first.
Well, that's where we lost.
And then you look at the youth team. You look at Liberali with Italy when they won the Euros earlier. This kid can dribble past 2 and 3 players.
Yeah, which is not the norm for Italian currently playing.
Right. So it's like, Italy sorely needs this. They need a player like this, but we're not taking steps to develop him. And then it gets even better. The youth team, remember they did this with Tonali in the last Euros. They wanted him to play with the youth team instead of the senior team. And it's just crazy. Like, oh yeah, or maybe it was the Euros previous to that. But they wanted him because they needed players for the youth Euros, so they didn't bring him into the senior team because of that. And that's ridiculous. Like, obviously, winning the Euros at any age is a great accomplishment, but the men's senior team comes first. Like, that's just how it is.
But Nathan, further to that point, I think it's this is linking back to what you spoke about. How then do we get the rules to have in place? Even for these players, the FIGC or whichever organization has a control over it, it should, in my opinion, the best thing would do is that re-implement the growth degree, but maybe for Italian players. Maybe that might be a way of getting
like a reverse.
yeah,
Yeah.
get trading, because just having like a criteria or like a cap saying that you need to have more than half Italian players on your team or in the squad list, to me that's not enough, because we see it in for our club as well. These guys are just rotting on the bench. I want good Italian players to give the foreign players a run for their money, not just for the fact that I'm just there to fill up slots and show me your passport.
Yeah.
Okay, it's Italian and take a seat. I want these players to play. I want good players, So
Yeah,
but
and it's
bring that up.
and I talked about this with Nathan in the chat. We are seeing good Italian players at Serie A, but they're on the smaller teams, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yes,
was
we
kind
need
of
those players, and we need the right coaches. I hope Fonseca's the guy, but Pioli definitely isn't. There's so many
No, he's
coaches
not.
that
Like,
really
Deserti
would
should have been the
downgrade
coach.
their own countrymen.
Yeah, well, that's a done deal. It's not. It's,
Yeah.
that ship has sailed a long time ago, unfortunately for us.
And I was a little bit pissed off yesterday, so I was saying crazy stuff in the chat. But on a more mild tone, the old heads of the footballing world in Italy need to go, because everything about them is about age. Oh, he's 17. He's too young. He's not developed enough. He can't play. It's not about, man, this kid has so much skill. We need to get him. We need to fast track him because his skill level and his IQ is just top notch. It's always about he's too young. Let's keep him in the Primavera a little bit longer. Like, look what we did with God. Who's the damn, why his name just escaped me. We bought him from Parma, the black kid. We loaned him out.
Traore, Chaka Traore.
Traore, yeah.
Right.
Damn,
Yeah, that's right.
he was playing first team with Parma. And we bring him to Milan. And we're like, all right, great. We got this kid. He's young. He played first team football. He's going to get to play. What do? Send him to the Primavera. Like, come on, man. That's old school thinking. Like, these old guys, hey, it's time to go. You can either leave.
Well, listen. Unfortunately, Nathan, that's not going to happen. But
I know,
before you jumped on the show, I brought up one thing that might happen, and so I brought up the '82 Brazilian team that they lost to Italy. That top Brazilian team. After that loss, they changed their mindset of how to play. They questioned their style of play, and they went to more of European style of football, pretty much. Brazil after that, because they got embarrassed. So I'm hoping, and this is what, being that this was an embarrassment for a lot of people's minds, especially in Italy, the way they went out, the way
we hope so.
That this changes their mindset, even if the old people, those dinosaurs stick around, because they're not going to leave until somebody forces them out, because they're, this changes their mindset a little bit and says, hey, this next World Cup cycle that we have, the World Cup coming up in 2026, this next cycle, now with Spalletti staying, all right, there's some stability. Like it or not, he's going to stay with the team for a little bit longer. That even Spalletti as well, he opens his mind and goes, shit, man, I fucked up. I should have done better. I should have chosen better players. Maybe next time I'll go around, he'll bring on some younger kids to the World Cup, or at least start putting them in these qualifiers, or these friendlies per se, and see how they do. And then whoever, he decides, bring 2 or 3 of them to the World Cup as an experience. Even if they only play a few minutes, just for the experience. That's what I'm hoping happens.
Yeah, what you're saying is the correct thing to do. But the problem is these kids are not getting called up for their club. So you can't justify even taking them when they aren't even being played on the first team for, like, the top 7 clubs. So, and it's you can't really take them if they have no top team experience. So, and then there's another negative effect of if, let's say, they do just for the sake of it, just take them. Oh well, now these guys are senior team players, so now their price is going to get jacked up, and then you can't afford them. So it's yeah, and especially the Torino president, that's his way of thinking. You're going to get priced out real quick, and you can't negotiate with that guy. So
You know what's the kicker there? They get on the national team, they get priced up. Someone comes and buys them, and they get disappointed when they don't perform as well. It's like a downward spiral, right? Like, look at the case of Chiesa, by the way. He's on the market. Can you believe it? My brother was telling me, he said, yeah, Juve will accept like 20-25 million. How come that someone's not picking that up even? He doesn't want to renew Juve last year of his contract.
He's a Milanista, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's why. If he's a Milanista, he can't come to Milan.
No, that's out of the question.
That's out of the question.
So, if the offer did come, for example, at Leao, if someone be a Saudi club or wherever the hell, really wants to play the release clause, play it. I would pick up Chiesa.
Bruh, Leao, I love him. His mindset is going to hold him back forever. To me, he can go. I do not see him fulfilling his potential in any way, shape, or form.
Well, maybe with a new coach, I'd say give him this season under Fonseca really, and see maybe a different coach could change him. It's possible. Maybe he has a different effect on him. It is possible. I wouldn't give it up. And yeah, I mean, obviously, we know these new generation of athletes like him and Jude Bellingham. It's more about the brand, right? That's what they're building, pretty much. That's just the way football is nowadays. But I would say
forms though.
Yes or no? I mean,
well, yeah, yes or no for sure.
But he's surrounded by better players as well, Nathan. Christ, he's surrounded by Kroos and Modric in the midfield. You can't get any better than that.
Yeah, but he was also sent to Dortmund. And Dortmund at the time really wasn't. They were playing okay. They were, getting top 4, but it wasn't like how Dortmund was like when they were under Klopp.
Or even now too, they're starting to they're starting to look good again nowadays.
Right. But like I don't know, like he doesn't put in the extra work. If he can start putting in the extra work, then maybe he can.
I'd say don't give him on the kid yet. I mean, because even if we sell him, like I said, there's no guarantee we're going to replace him with a decent player. That's the thing we got to think about as well going forward. With that being said, guys, let me get you some closing thoughts on Calafiori. What do you think he's going to be going after the Euros?
Husni, you want to go first?
Yeah.
Husni, go first, please.
Not Milan.
Okay, great answer. Do you see him going to the EPL now? With his price is probably going to go up?
No. EPL, they have a lot of money. They have a lot of options. I also don't think they rate Italian players that highly. I mean, they have so many examples. What happened with Tonali? What happened with Zaniolo? You gotta see these things in a pattern as well, right? Like maybe it just doesn't work over there for Italian players generally.
Nathan?
Well, since Italy failed miserably, maybe his price tag won't skyrocket. But I mean, it's looking like Juventus.
That's the only suitor, I think, the only possible place for him as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love him to be on our club, obviously, but God forbid we spent that kind of money on a center back that could be, our next starting center back for the next 6-7 seasons.
Yeah, that's
a pipe dream. No, why would we? It's not like defense was an issue last season, by the way. Our defense was. All right. With that being said,
our defense was top notch. Don't be ridiculous.
Let's not sugarcoat that. All right, guys, let's cut this. Any closing comments? Anything you want to plug in?
Well, Forza Milan and enjoy the Euros, I guess.
Husni?
Yeah. Forza Milan and Forza Top 4, Forza Europa League. That's really the ambition of the club. And yeah, Forza Moneyball,
If you
whatever
got
the hell it is.
finances,
Yeah,
Forza,
Forza balance sheets.
Forza finance trophies, huh?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Check it out. Hold on before we say quick thing. We'll be back in August once the summer mercado is over and we got all the signings in place and we know what Fonseca is going to do with his tactics, formations, all that fun stuff. We'll be back on Milanistas 360 with a live panel show. Hopefully, we'll get a lot of different people. I plan on inviting a ton of people from different podcasts to get their thoughts on the team next season and the signings as well. Review each signing and give our thoughts on that as well. If we like it or we just fucking hate it. All right, guys, take it easy. Thanks for tuning in. And don't forget to subscribe, like their channels, and all that good stuff. All right, till then,
Right. Forza
be good.
Milan, everyone. See you.